Shogun takes another shot at slaying the dragon. Daley hopes to deliver chaos to Josh's title hopes, and grab some popcorn for Allen versus Predator. This is the Fight Network's preview of UFC 113 in Montreal. Hey there, fight fans. My name is John Pollock, and this is the Fight Network's preview of UFC 113 that emanates from the Bell Center in Montreal, Quebec this Saturday night. John Ramdeen will be joining me in just a few minutes as we break down one of the deepest UFC cards in recent memory, where we will see two Canadians grace the main card, the first pay-per-view bout of Kimbo Slice's career, and the main event features one of the most anticipated rematches in light heavyweight history. The main event of UFC 113 will see Lyoto Machida defend his UFC Light Heavyweight Championship as the undefeated karate magician steps into the octagon with the man that many felt solved the puzzle of Machida last October, the 18-4 Mauricio Shogun Rua. Their first bout at UFC 104 was controversial to say the least, with Machida taking a unanimous decision amidst criticism that Rua inflicted more damage throughout and whose leg kicks were not rewarded by the judges.
The first time, I think the decision, really could have gone either way. I think it was, really close, and, I think this is going to be a similar fight.
Machida was a champ, you have to beat him decisively. I don't know, I think we're going to see a different Machida. Maybe, he was caught off guard by how good Rua looked when he showed up for that fight. He didn't look like the old guy from Pride, in his first few performances in the UFC, but in the title fight, he looked great.
Fight is a fight. Lyoto is still a guy that people can't figure out, and Shogun is one of the best in the business, and it's hard for him to deal with that too. And I just think, next time maybe he come with a better strategy. Keep doing with the strategy he did. Maybe should add some more tight clinches and some more big damages, and maybe work a little bit on his wrestling so he can get points on that. And I think I'm looking forward to watch this fight again. It's going to be a great fight.
It should be a really good fight. I expect, maybe a lot of the same, just a stand-up war, I think Shogun might be able to take him, a little more driven, he might have his game figured out, a little bit more, so he might really be able to push him and get this decisive win, so it's going to be interesting.
I'm a big fan of Machida, and I'm really excited for him. I think he's going to correct the decisions he made. He's a smart fighter. He's a technical fighter. I think he's going to come back and get the W here. And I think it could be, another 5-round banger. But I see Machida, definitely being more dominant in this fight.
I'm sure Machida is back to the drawing board and getting ready for him. So I don't know. I got to stick with Machida. Maybe coming back, a little more prepared and a little hungry.
I think the key for Shogun to win this fight is just do his game. I think Shogun does really well of mixing in his takedowns with his stand-up.
I'd like to see. I'm kind of pulling for Shogun, but I think Machida is going to come in a lot better shape this time.
I don't think Shogun has anything that he hasn't seen before, and I don't see Shogun's style is to come straight ahead, and Ninja's just going to and Lyoto's just going to step to the side, and he's going to let him have it. So he's going to be too. If Shogun just walks him down, he's going to end up getting counterpunched really. And he'll be there and gone before the fight's over. I
think that Machida is definitely coming into his own as well. That kid's on fire. He's very confident in himself. But I think Shogun may give him a little bit of problems early out. But I think that Machida will win.
In a hotly anticipated rematch, Mauricio Shogun Rua once again looks to capture the UFC light heavyweight crown when he meets fellow Brazilian Lyoto Machida. In their first fight, Rua pressed the action, delivering punishing kicks to the legs and body of the champion. But Machida responded by using his hands, knees, and movement to neutralize Shogun's attack.
Machida's got that, the hit and run type style of fighting, so he's hard to catch. He's got great footwork. And he's got great striking and crisp and fast and circles and angles and all that stuff. So he's one of those guys that are really hard to catch.
After 5 rounds, it would be Machida winning a controversial unanimous decision over the shoot-a-box export in a battle many feel the former Pride star should have won.
Eu acho que, na minha opinião, pelo que eu vi, que eu achei quem ganhou, acho que ganhou o Shogun. Eu acho que o Shogun ganhou aquela luta, como todo mundo achou também a mesma coisa. Mas não adianta, o cara para ganhar do campeão, o cara que é o campeão, que é o Lyoto Machida, tem que convencer, de repente tem que ser um nocaute, uma finalização, e não foi bem parelha a luta, foi bem igualada, e acho que o UFC pensou, acho que vão deixar o Machida como campeão, como ele já é o campeão, deixaram assim, mas Na minha opinião, eu acho que o Shogun ganhou.
I used to be a huge fan of Shogun when he was in Pride, but I thought he lost a little bit of steam coming into UFC, and the old Shogun showed up, you know. And after the first round, I was for Shogun the whole way, and you know, I thought he won the fight, you know, 3 rounds to 2. I thought he won the fight.
Na verdade o Lyoto é um cara bom, um cara que eu respeito ele, e depois todo mundo falou que eu venci a luta. Todo mundo falou que eu venci, ninguém me falou que foi uma luta que foi empate ou ele venceu. Então eu fico feliz pela minha performance, pela minha equipe, por mim, mas eu não fico feliz pelo resultado, né?
With judging and officiating still a work in progress, trainers and fighters have to focus on finishing fights if they want to ensure the proper outcome.
I thought it was a really tight fight, really hard to judge because I think nowadays just depends how you see the fight. If you put in the stats, Shogun hit him 4 times more, and he connected way more damage on Lyoto. In the end, Lyoto was really hurt, you know. But the commentators were saying like we had to take the title away, so it was pretty even shot, and I guess they decided to give it to Lyoto.
Minha luta eu vendo, não entendo o critério que os juízes usam, né? Eu dei mais que o dobro de golpes nele, então eu não sei que critério que ele usou na minha luta contra o Lyoto, os juízes, né? Deve ter algum outro interesse por trás disso, né?
Both men now know what to expect from their opponent in the octagon after spending 5 rounds in a heated battle. The advantage has to go to the champion, as he seemed to steal the win away from Rua, and in the process had the opportunity to see the best Shogun had to offer. Since the October 2009 tilt, Machida has had ample time to study tape and make any necessary adjustments to his game plan to ensure a victory.
Um cara muito estrategista, né? É um cara estratégico. Ele, tipo assim, ele só vai encarar o cara assim, ele só vai entrar no golpe quando ele tiver certeza que aquele golpe vai pegar, entendeu? Então ele só vai, tipo assim, vai na certa. Então ele é um cara difícil de lutar.
Nós somos 2 atletas que lutamos já há muitos anos e a gente já luta há 10 anos, então ele não vai fazer, ele não tem como mudar o jogo dele nem eu. Acho que o nosso jogo é basicamente o mesmo, não vai mudar agora em 5 meses. Então eu vou treinar duro para essa luta com ele, eu vou treinar outras técnicas e espero surpreendê-lo.
We now know that Machida is out to prove that the decision was just, and he has promised the MMA world to be more aggressive.
Entering there, and a jumping stomp by Machida.
The Dragon is hoping to leave an impression not only with the judges, but with the fans in the Bell Center. Will it be enough, as Machida is facing a man many consider to be one of the greatest light heavyweights in the history of the sport?
Shogun
versus
Machida.
John Ramdine joins us here as we break down UFC 113. But right now, John, let's rewind to UFC 104. It was Lyoto Machida's first championship title defense against Mauricio Shogun Rua. It was a fight that was highly debated by fans after the unanimous decision was given to Machida. How did you score the fight?
I scored the fight 49-46 in favor of the challenger, Mauricio Rua. I think he did enough. I think he pushed the action, and I don't think Machida was ready for the 2005 Grand Prix champion.
Now, one of the many debated topics that came out of the fight was the judging, and Judge Cecil Peoples made the statement that leg kicks don't end fights. Let's tell Uriah Faber that statement.
Or Quentin Jackson, for that matter. I think leg kicks do win fights if they're used properly, and Shogun's a guy who definitely knows how to use the leg kicks. You go back and you look at his time in Pride. This guy is simply an animal in the stand-up department, and I think Machida felt those leg kicks, and I think that's why a lot of people feel that Shogun won the fight, because he was able to use his weapons and his tools to take away some of the tools from Machida.
Now, in the first fight, Shogun answered a lot of the questions that people had regarding Machida. How do both men approach this rematch? Does Shogun stick to what worked in the first fight? Because Machida, you've got to imagine, is going to be coming at it with a somewhat different game plan.
Yeah, it's interesting because actually Machida gets the most out of that fight, and usually it's the people that lose fights that gain the most. But a lot of people say that Shogun won that fight. Shogun says that he's going to have the same approach, continue to use the leg kicks, use his striking to try to frustrate Machida. Machida now can go back to the drawing board, see what didn't work in that fight, and come up with a new game plan. And I'm going to imagine that the new game plan is try to put Shogun on his back and work from inside his guard.
It's going to be a tough one to call, John, but that's why we pay you the big bucks here at the Fight Network.
Well, I think Lyoto Machida is too smart, too crafty, and although Shogun's going to be very competitive in this fight, I think Machida earns a unanimous decision and retains his title.
The co-feature bout this Saturday night will have heavy implications for the top of the welterweight division as the 14-4 AKA fighter Josh Koscheck will step into the octagon opposite 23-8-2 Paul Semtex Daley, who enters this bout on a 4-fight win streak and a 2-0 record inside of the octagon. It has been heavily rumored that the winner of this bout will be asked to coach the 12th season of The Ultimate Fighter and lead to an eventual title shot with George St. Pierre.
Koscheck's an idiot if he's going to stay standing with Daley. He needs to take him down, and that's his strength. Obviously, is his takedowns. I guess Daley does have some good takedown defense, so Daley it would be smart for him to obviously work on his takedown defense, stay away, and stay standing.
You know, a guy like Daley's very dangerous on the feet. He could knock you out at any point in time. He's relatively green on the ground. I think he's got some good ground defense, but I don't really see him as a big threat on the ground. I think Koscheck should just take him down and finish him on the ground.
Josh, he really shouldn't stand up with him. You know, if he's game plan smart, he's gonna go and look for that takedown, and you know, grind him out.
He's just got to fight smart. Like, I mean, it's a no-brainer that if he takes him down, he can control him. He's controlled guys with a black belt level in jiu-jitsu and you know, champion in wrestling, and he's won those fights. So I think that's what he's got to do. He's got to, you know, set up his punches obviously, but just, you know, take the fight where it needs to be.
Anything can happen, but realistically, Paul Daley is a super explosive fighter, super fast, and hits like a truck. And I really see this fight going in his favor. I'd pick him, you know, to get the KO.
I really don't care who wins. I don't like Koscheck at all. Just because of wrestling, I used to compete against him. I never did wrestle him in college, but we were the same weight class. So I want him to lose. I hope Daley knocks him out.
In a fight surrounded by a ton of bad blood, it's a classic matchup of striker versus grappler. Top 5 170-pound fighter Josh Koscheck continues his quest for a crack at the UFC welterweight strap when he faces explosive knockout artist Paul Semtex Daley. Daley has been impressive as of late, as all 12 of the Englishman's last 12 victories have come by way of KO or TKO, including a stoppage win over Dwayne Bang Ludwig, one of the sport's premier strikers, proving that Daley is one of the most dangerous stand-up fighters in the division. Daley's ground game has always been his Achilles heel, with 5 of his 8 losses coming by submission. Daley's last 2 losses have come at the hands of Nick Thompson and Jake Shields, 2 of the division's top grapplers. The Team Roughhouse member will be in tough as he's paired with one of the sport's most decorated wrestlers. Since losing to submission whiz Drew Fickett in 2005, Josh Koscheck has looked simply spectacular, improving on all aspects of his mixed martial arts game. Koscheck has only lost to the division's best, including top 3 welterweight Thiago Alves and the king of the weight class George St. Pierre. The most improved aspect of the AKA student's game has been his striking. Koscheck dispatched Frank Trigg, Yoshiyuki Yoshida, and jiu-jitsu ace Dustin Hazlett by way of strikes, but many feel he isn't on Daley's level when it comes to the stand-up game. It's a fight that comes down to style and the ability to implement their game, if ego doesn't get in the way.
In a welterweight contest, we have Josh Koscheck taking on Paul Daley. This one seems that stylistically, it's the wrestling of Koscheck versus the stand-up game of Paul Daley.
That's exactly how this fight is going to go down, unless Josh Koscheck's ego gets in the way of a big victory and a potential crack at George St. Pierre's welterweight title. I think Koscheck has to use the approach of the W is the most important thing. Use his world-class wrestling skills to put Paul Daley on his back, because we saw what happened when he faced Jake Shields and Nick Thompson. Paul Daley's a fish out of water when he's on the ground. But if Koscheck does decide to stand up and exchange with Paul Daley, we know that Paul Daley has explosive knockout power, and it could be lights out for Kosh.
Yes, and it could be a repeat of Paulo Thiago for Josh Koscheck. And I wanted to get your thoughts as well, because a lot of wrestlers, they're given all this grief when they use their wrestling to their advantage. We've seen even with Gray Maynard in the past that almost a stubbornness to stand with guys. Do you think that that's a mistake for guys, or is it an evolution on their part trying to evolve their stand-up game?
It's funny that you say that. I had a chance to talk to Sean Shirk, because that's a guy who's received so much criticism about his hands that, oh, he's decided to stand and trade and has abandoned his wrestling roots. Well, it's the evolution of these guys. These guys want to improve in every aspect of the mixed martial arts game, because they know as the younger guys come up, they're all going to be good in wrestling, they're all going to be good in jiu-jitsu, and they're all going to be good in the stand-up game. So it comes down to evolution, and I think Josh Koscheck's a guy that believes that in addition to his wrestling skills and his jiu-jitsu skills, that his hands have come such a long way, and that he wants to use those and show the fans that he does have a stand-up game.
Any evidence to you that Paul Daley has evolved that ground game? Because we've seen impressive knockouts from him, but it seems that there's a glass ceiling for him until he can last on his back.
Well, the one thing you have to look at is not everybody has to know jiu-jitsu, but they have to know anti-jiu-jitsu, and that means trying to get up from the ground, sprawling, brawling, and make sure that you're not fighting off of your back. The best example of that is back in the day, Kote was simply phenomenal at the anti-jiu-jitsu or the anti-grappling game. If Paul Daley has evolved to that point, I could see him winning this fight, but Koscheck's ranked number 5 for a reason.
So who's going to be the winner and the potential coach against George St. Pierre in Ultimate Fighter Season 12?
I think Josh Koscheck is going to emerge victorious. I think he wants to take Paul Daley down and choke him out. I think that's exactly what you're going to see somewhere in the 2nd or 3rd round.
Following the biggest performance of his career at UFC 108, Sam Stout returns to the city that hosted many of his early battles with the TKO promotion in Montreal. The 15-5-1 Stout has been the recipient of the Fight of the Night honor in his last 2 UFC bouts and hopes to make it 3 in a row Saturday when he collides with the 16-5 Jeremy Stephens, who is not only entering this fight without the home field advantage, but also with the knowledge that he has lost 2 of his last 3 in the UFC.
Perfect fight for Sam Stout. You know, he's fighting Jeremy Stephens, and Jeremy, he's tough, he hits hard, and Sam respects that. I just think Sam's just a little better than him everywhere. He's too crisp, too technical on the feet.
Like on paper, I think he's better than Jeremy everywhere. You know, Jeremy might have a little bit more power or a little stronger on the wrestling side, but I think Sam's got more skills everywhere, more endurance, and I think he's just got to fight smart. Like, he doesn't have to make it a slugfest. He doesn't have to, you know, like that's in Sam's nature. Sometimes, you know, when the punches are flying, he swings back, you know, but that's why he's so exciting, and that's why the fans love him. But I think if he fights smart, he can pick and choose where this fight ends up and where he wins it.
Coming off the most spectacular win of his career, dynamic 26-year-old Canadian striker Sam Hansa-Stone Stout returns to his home country to battle well-rounded 23-year-old arena team standout Jeremy Stephens. Training under renowned MMA coach Sean Tompkins, Stout has moved part of his training camp to Las Vegas to train with Tompkins at the recently opened Tap Out Gym. Coming off back-to-back wins against Matt Wyman and Joe Lozon with Fight of the Night bonuses in both outings, the London, Ontario native Stout will be looking for his 5th Fight of the Night bonus and his 5th overall victory in 9 Octagon appearances. Formerly known as a kickboxer, the one-time K1 fighter Stout has evolved all the components of his MMA game, which he showcased by defeating dangerous submission stylist Joe Lozon in January.
That fight put Sam on the map, you know, even more than those Spencer Fisher fights that, you know, everybody fell in love with. They realized now that Sam Stout's for real.
Tompkins is expecting a tough battle for his fighter against a sturdy opponent in Stephens, who possesses dangerous knockout power and a wrestling pedigree.
He's tough, he's a brawler, it's a good matchup for us, and more importantly, it's a great matchup for the Canadian fans. We're real excited to go back to Canada, do it in Montreal, and be on the main card.
Stout, who will be competing on a Montreal card for the 3rd time, is excited about the prospect of stealing the show once again and taking home yet another bonus. He has vowed to show off some of his new skills and prove that he's continually improving in all facets of the game.
I like to put on an exciting show. That's how I like to fight. Me and Sean switched up a few things for my training camp. I had been kind of overworking myself a little bit in the past and not bringing out, you know, not peaking at the right time and stuff. And I think for the last one, I got it figured out perfect. So you can expect to see, you know, the same Sam Stout that fought Joe Lozon, if not better, for this fight against Jeremy Stephens.
Stout's training partners are confident that he has all the tools necessary to emerge victorious on Saturday night.
That's going to be a great fight, you know. I got no doubt that Sam will take it. You know, I've trained a lot with him. He's a great training partner, and he's, you know, got no give up in him. You know, he's going to go, go, go. And so I expect Sam to take that one for sure.
Jeremy Stephens, you know, he's known for being a striker, so, you know, I think it's going to be a great fight. I think Sam's going to outstrike him, and if it goes to the ground, you know, Sam's really tough on the ground.
It's our home crowd, it's our hometown. Montreal's off the hook when it comes, and we're bringing a full team for Team Tompkins, and you know, we're all going to be there supporting them, and I see Stout, you know, with a serious, impressionable victory.
Stephens, a native of Des Moines, Iowa, is coming off a first-round stoppage of Justin Buchholz last September. With 4 wins and 8 Octagon appearances, Stephens is hoping a win against Stout will propel him to the upper echelon of the lightweights in the UFC. If records are any indication, Stout should have the edge, although Stephens is a tough customer on any given night. Stout is hoping to pull off yet another sensational performance to pocket a Fight of the Night bonus, but Stephens will be looking to connect with a punishing knockout. This lightweight encounter between two of the division's young guns has all the makings of a show stealer.
This is an exciting one, John. A lightweight contest between Sam Stout and Jeremy Stephens. Sam Stout coming off that amazing victory against Joe Lozon in January. I thought probably the best performance of his career.
100% Sam Stout, always improving, which is so awesome to see. You go back and you look at his fights in TKO. This guy was primarily a kickboxer, a Muay Thai guy, and to see the evolution of his game under the tutelage of Sean Tompkins is simply amazing.
And working with Sean Tompkins, I mean, Sean Tompkins always, as you mentioned, had the reputation of being stand-up and striking with the Muay Thai, but talk about the ground game as well that they're implementing at Tap Out.
Well, Sean Tompkins says it's all about mixed martial arts, and the only way to be a true mixed martial arts fighter is to have well-rounded skills in all areas of the game. So in addition to working his Muay Thai and his kickboxing skills, he has to work the wrestling and the anti-grappling and the jiu-jitsu game, because that is the only way to become a true champion.
Tell us a bit about Jeremy Stephens and what you expect from him in this performance.
This is going to be an absolute firefight. I really don't think this fight is going to go down to the ground. I think both guys know that the way to get their bonus check is to stand and trade over the course of 3 rounds and put on a spectacular show for the fans in Montreal and watching around the world, and I think that's exactly what we're going to get. My hands are sweating right now just thinking about this fight because it's going to be an absolute firefight between these two guys.
And your prediction?
I'm not going to bet against Sam Stout. He's impressed me too many times, and I think he's going to impress again. And it's going to be, I don't think he's going to be able to take out Jeremy Stephens in this fight, but he's going to win in decision.
Kimbo Slice has made the leap from the computer to the television set, but on Saturday night he graduates to pay-per-view for the first time as he looks for his 5th professional win against fellow tough tent competitor Matt Mitrione. Slice has been working with American Top Team out of Florida and looks to follow up on his 3-round decision victory over Houston Alexander that extracted every ounce of cardio strength in his system.
With the weight of the mixed martial arts world on his shoulders, Kimbo Slice has an opportunity to silence his critics with a win over fellow Ultimate Fighter competitor Matt Mitrione. After a disappointing loss to Tough 2 alum Seth Petrozelli at Elite XC Heat, Kimbo Slice has captured the hearts of casual fans once again by winning a unanimous decision over heavy-handed brawler Houston Alexander. Now training full-time at Florida's famed American Top Team, Kimbo Slice is trying to move past the pressures of being the face of a promotion and focus on the task at hand, improving his mixed martial arts game. With only a handful of pro fights under his belt, one can't expect the Reality King star to challenge for a title or even face one of the division's best at this stage in his career. Instead, Kimbo Slice is perfectly paired with another newcomer and former NFLer Mitrione. Although the 31-year-old Mitrione has only had one pro fight, he knows the dedication required to become a successful athlete. The Illinois native has a gigantic chance to make a splash in the UFC by taking out one of the most overhyped fighters in the history of the sport. Now training in Milwaukee, Wisconsin with fellow UFC fighters Pat Barry and Ben Rothwell, Mitrione may be the man to spoil Kimbo Slice's UFC pay-per-view debut.
My first question I want to ask you, John, regarding Kimbo Slice. We've proven that Kimbo Slice has translated perfectly well on television. Are people going to be interested in paying to see him on pay-per-view, and especially on this card?
Of course they are. People love Kimbo Slice. Even in 2010, people think that Kimbo Slice is one of the most dangerous men in the sport. Even some of the most hardcore fans want to see this guy fight, and you know what? I can say that I'm pretty intrigued.
Now let's talk about the slick ground games of these two various men. I'm going with a omoplata victory from Matt Mitrione, but what are you calling it?
I was thinking maybe a go-go plata, but I don't think this fight is going to the ground in any way, unless Kimbo Slice is smart. You look at Matt Mitrione, the UFC couldn't have tailor-made a better fight for Kimbo Slice. Matt Mitrione with one professional fight under his belt, probably the best guy they could have given him in the heavyweight division. If Kimbo Slice is smart, he's going to try to get this fight down to the ground and avoid the stand-up game with Matt Mitrione. What you have to look at with Mitrione is that this guy is a proven competitor. To get to the NFL, the National Football League, and compete for 3 different teams, you have to be dedicated and you have to be driven. And I think Matt Mitrione knows the opportunity he has if he takes out Kimbo Slice.
Now, we saw Kimbo Slice go an impressive 15 minutes with Houston Alexander.
Was it impressive?
I was going to say, it wasn't the most impressive of fights. The fact that he lasted 15 minutes, he was gassed at the end of that fight. Do you expect a similar strategy that he used against Houston, where it seemed to be not to stand with him?
Well, I think Matt Mitrione is going to push the fight, so Kimbo is going to be forced to respond in this. And it's either he's going to stand and trade and look for the big knockout, or he's going to be smart and try to get this fight down to the ground. I don't think Houston Alexander is the same type of fighter Matt Mitrione is, because Matt Mitrione is a proven competitor, and I think we're going to see that on Saturday.
Your pick, John.
I am going to say that Matt Mitrione wins this fight by stand-up. I think he knocks Kimbo Slice out probably in the 2nd or 3rd round.
It's been almost 19 months since Patrick Cote heard his name introduced by Bruce Buffer, but on Saturday night, the Predator will put a year and a half's worth of rehab and recuperation to the test when he meets the 15-6 Alan the Talent Belcher. Cote's last bout in October of 2008 against middleweight champion Anderson Silva lasted until Cote literally lacked a leg to stand on, bowing out with a right knee injury that snapped a 5-fight win streak.
Patrick feels no pressure, you know. You should have seen him before he fought Anderson Silva. This guy is relaxed. There's no pressure for Patrick Cote. You know, Patrick Cote is mentally, he's a, you know, there's mental midgets. He's a mental giant. You know, Patrick Cote is so good at the mental preparation for a fight, and he's gonna go out there and have fun. Patrick is a stud.
He always has been the underdog, you know, of his fights. So I'm expecting from him, you know, a pretty good win. I wish a knockout, maybe knockout of the night.
A lot of the guys, I think, what they have to, Pat, he has to be in tip-top shape, and he's got to try to outgas this guy. You know what I mean? He's a hard worker. He's got a good chin. You know, he's got a big heart, and I think he's just gonna have to ground and pound like they say, and you know, get the better of this guy. Usually, guys have good hands and good stand-up. They're not good on the floor.
Patrick the Predator Cote returns to action for the first time since his injury loss to Anderson Silva at UFC 90 in October of 2008. Cote will be paired with Muay Thai specialist Alan Belcher in a fight that promises fistic fireworks.
I don't think he really already fought somebody who hits like me, you know, because you know, I still my power is still there for sure. So if I hit the target, it's gonna go down for sure. But you know, he has a really good chin. He showed that when he fought Dennis Kang. Dennis Kang was throwing him a lot of bomb, and he was still there. He likes to go forward, so I have to take the center of the octagon and put pressure on him. That's gonna be the key for this fight for sure for me.
Cote has been working on his overall game, but has focused on his hand speed and power in anticipation that this bout will not go to the canvas. In addition to working with his team at BTT Canada, Cote has also been training with Montreal-based boxing instructor Howard Grant, as well as the entire Zahabi MMA crew at TriStar Gym. Cote has come a long way since his Octagon debut in 2004, and many feel that with a win over the Remix MMA-trained Belcher, he could find himself in the mix of middleweight title challengers.
Patrick, I trained with him on Tuesday, and he's very sharp. I mean, I was very surprised. He came back, and it seems like he hasn't taken a break. So it's gonna be a good fight for him. He's gonna win this fight and go back for the title.
Belcher, nicknamed the Talent, should not be underestimated, as he's coming off key wins in recent bouts, having dispatched Wilson Gouveia, Dennis Kang, and George Santiago in impressive fashion, all members of the world-famous American Top Team gym.
We wanted a big fight right away, and that's exactly what we have in Alan Belcher. You know, this guy is no joke, really good chin. He's a gamer. He wants to trade. He wants to stay on his feet and chase to toe. So that's going to be a really good fight for. I think it's a good matchup for me. And it's going to be a really good fight for the crowd too.
Belcher, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt, possesses a well-rounded skill set. The 26-year-old Arkansas native has showcased explosive knockout power and hand speed since his TKO loss to Jason Day on the UFC's first Montreal show in 2008. With bonuses in his last 3 fights, Belcher has wowed the UFC crowds and is hoping to do the same in Montreal come Saturday. This action-packed middleweight clash has potential title implications, as the two fighters are vying for a top 10 spot in the 185-pound rankings. With Chael Sonnen and Vitor Belfort already promised title shots, the winner of this matchup could be paired against Damian Maia, Nate Marquardt, or the winner of Vanderlei Silva versus Yoshihiro Akiyama this June. Coming off of a serious knee injury, ring rust will be a key obstacle for the French-Canadian warrior, although Belcher could meet his demise if he chooses to trade fists with the heavy-handed Predator this Saturday night.
John, these two middleweights were scheduled to fight at UFC 83 all the way back in 2008 in Montreal. They returned 2 years later. Patrick Cote has suffered a litany of injuries in that time. How durable is Patrick Cote right now, coming off the multiple injuries he's had since the Anderson Silva fight?
Well, I had a chance to watch Patrick Cote train and talk to him, and this guy is ready to go. He does want another crack at Anderson Silva's middleweight title, and he knows the way to do that is to impress by taking out Alan Belcher. And I think stylistically, it's a perfect matchup for the Predator. I think his hands are there and his speed has come such a long way. And I think that's going to be the difference in this fight.
What did you see in Patrick Cote's last performance against Anderson Silva?
I think that Patrick Cote doesn't fear anybody, and that's the most important key to his game, or the most important aspect to his game, is that he gives everybody the respect, but he's not afraid to get in there and engage with the top strikers or the top grapplers. And Cote, I mean, the guy has been to Bosnia, so when you have that in the back of your mind, standing and fighting with a man inside of a cage is really a cakewalk.
Now, Alan Belcher is a guy who quietly has won 3 of his last 4 fights, and he's someone that I think is clearly going to want to get right in front of Cote and stand and bang with him.
I agree with you, and I think that's going to be to his detriment. I think Cote has the bigger power, and I think he's got a chin of granite, and I think that's going to be the difference again in this fight. I think Cote is going to want to stand and bang with Alan Belcher, and I don't think Belcher is going to be able to take the punching power of Patrick Cote.
His face might look as ugly as his tattoo by the end of the night. Who are you picking in this one?
I'm going to pick Patrick Cote. I think he wins probably in the 3rd round by TKO. If not, he wins a decision.
Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we'll break down the preliminary card action set for this Saturday night at UFC 113.